So, good morning. We're going to get right to the modeling here on our live stream class this morning, and we are modeling up a simple milking style stool. Now, there are a couple of ways that we can do this, but this is the one that we're going to work with, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why this style and how to build one of the other styles if that's what you're looking for as well. So we'll get started with right-clicking on our square and making sure that we are modeling with perspective with ortho faces. And as promised for our American watchers, we are going to change our units to inches and do all of our modeling today in inches. We will save this, and we're going to call it Today, 2022 113 Milking Stool Live. All right, so we will get started by modeling an interesting part of our stool. We'll click on New Sketch. Click on the bottom, and we are going to draw a round top. It doesn't matter how big we draw it because we're going to give it a dimension. We will zoom out a little bit, click on our dimension tool, click on the outside of our circle, and we are going to say that our diameter of the circle is going to be 15.5 inches, which is a fairly large size for a milking stool, but we're not actually going to use it for milking. We're probably going to use it for sitting around the house. That also means that we are going to make this a little taller than your typical milking stool. So if I say Finish Sketch, we have a very basic circle here, and I click on the Extrude tool. The Extrude tool is what is going to let us turn this into an actual object. Now, I think that we want this to be relatively thin, so I'm going to make it 5/8 of an inch thick. I'll just type it in, and I'll go over here and select New Component, and say OK. So we have our base here. Now, unlike the stool that we modeled in one of the more recent lives that we did, we're not going to shape out the inside of this for our seat. A typical traditional milking stool is going to be a relatively thin top, but without any of the dishing in the middle to fit your body. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to say our modify and fillet the outside edges, and we're going to give them a 1/4 inch round over and hit OK. So that's going to be a really nice rounded profile. You might want to make this a little thicker, maybe not. I think it looks pretty good. Now, the only other thing that we have to pay attention to is that we want some nice tapered legs. Now, there are a few different ways that you can do that. You can do it with round tapered legs, or you can do it with square tapered legs, or you can do it with rectangular tapered legs. I think doing it with square legs is going to be an awful lot easier for most people to handle because you probably don't have a lathe. But I know what you do have. You do have a saw. So if I go in here and I create another sketch, and I sketch on the bottom of this top that we have created, and I create a center point rectangle out here, I am going to draw a square, and I will draw another square a little further out. Now, I think that these squares are going to be about the same size. Actually, I think they're going to be exactly the same size. So I'm going to go up here to equals, and I'm going to make the top equal to the side, turning it into a square on both of them. And then I'm going to make the top of each equal to the other. And that's going to make them not just square, but the same square. I am going to hit dimension, and from the center of our top to the inside of our first square leg, I am going to make that 4.5 inches. And from the outside, from the center, we'll do it from the center, from the center out to the inside of the other leg, I'm going to make that 8 inches out, which means it's going to sit a little proud of the side. Now, what is not given here is that these are not running exactly in line with the center of our top. So if I create a line, and I draw a line all the way out here, it doesn't matter how long exactly, and then I click on the line and tap X to turn it into a guideline, I can go up here and say, coincident, the center of this is going to be on this line, and the center of this one is going to be on this line. And now they're exactly in line with the center. Now, if I go over here and I drag this, well, I haven't given it the dimension of the actual legs yet. So let's do that. Whoops. Click on the background, D for dimension, and I am going to give a dimension to these legs, and I'm going to say that they are 7/8 of an inch, which is pretty big for a simple stool. And I will say finish sketch. Now, of course, if we go from that point to the other point, that's not going to really help us very much, is it? However, what we really want to do is go from the top of this table down to the bottom, somewhere down there. Now, how tall is our stool going to be? Well, I would say we want the legs to be about 15 inches long. So I'm going to construct a plane from the bottom of the stool 15 inches away. I type it in and hit enter. And I want those legs to go all the way up and through the top. So I'm going to construct another plane Oh, I don't need another plane. I've already got the top. What am I talking about? So if I go up here and I create a sketch on the top, I can hit P for project and copy by double-clicking this whole box up into it. Project just allows me to take the dimensions of something from another drawing or from another object and copy it to another sketch. That's all we need. I'll create another sketch on that bottom plane, and I will hit P for project, double-click on this box, and hit OK. And now we can actually do some playing with our stool dimensions. If I say create, and I create, oh, I haven't finished my sketch, sorry. If I say create and hit loft, I will turn off the top, and I will go up here and zoom in. You see the square that we drew on that top? Square we drew on the top? And see the square we drew way down at the bottom of the leg? I can loft between them and hit OK. Let's make it a new component while we're at it. Great. So now we can turn off our sketches and turn back on our top. And what do we think of this? It might be in the right place. It might not be. But I know one way to find out. Let's make the other two legs. Now, we've done a lot of mirroring and patterning already in some of our live stream classes. But what we haven't done is rotated things around the center point to make them an odd number. But if we go up here to create pattern, circular pattern, make sure we are selecting our bodies and connect to this leg. If we hit the axis and rotate around the center axis, we have our quantity 3 and hit OK. Now we have 3 legs going into our top. And what do you think of that? I think it actually looks pretty good. But I wouldn't mind moving those a little bit closer to the center and perhaps giving them a bit more thickness. But of course, we don't have to go back and do any of that. All we have to do is right-click on our second sketch change our dimension from 4.5 to 3.5. Hit Finish Sketch, and now we have a totally different angle on all 3 of our legs. Remember, that changed all of them because we didn't make them separately, we made them as part of a pattern. Now I think they look a little light, so we'll go in and edit it one more time, and I'm going to make them 1 1/8 inches. Save Finish Sketch, and now our stool is significantly sturdier. With those big, thick pieces, I think there's one other thing that we should probably think about doing, and that is, if we go down here to our first extrude and hit Edit Feature, instead of 5/8 inch thick, we're going to make that 7/8 of an inch thick too, and now we have a much, much more solid milking stool. Of course, we haven't actually done any joinery yet. Well, let's do something about that. If I wanted to take these pieces and actually join them to the top, all I would have to do is say Combine, hit the top, and select 1, 2, 3 to cut right through and hit OK. And now you can see those 3 legs are going right into the top. Let's open up our Appearance panel by hitting A and actually change that top to something else so it's easy to see the contrast. I'm going to make it Figured Walnut because, of course, that's what we always use for milking stools. Hit OK. And now we have our maple legs going into our Figured Walnut top. That's got to be the classiest milking stool I've ever seen. And that will work. Of course, that doesn't quite work in terms of the joinery because those pieces can slide right on through. So what are we actually going to do? Instead of having the simple stool, we're going to make these legs taper to a wider area as they go down. So that means that as you sit on this stool, you're actually making the joinery stronger rather than letting those things come up and go straight through. So we'll go back to that same sketch that we edited before and hit Edit Sketch. Now remember, we made these 2 equal to each other, right? Now, if I hover over the equals sign, it tells me where the equality is. That is parallel. Those 2 are equal. And that one is equal to the other one. You can see it's turned blue. So I'm going to delete that. Now, I want the inside one to be 1 1/8. But I want the bottom one to be a bit bigger. I want the bottom one to actually be 1 5/8 inches. And if I hit Finish Sketch, now I have tapered legs going all the way down to the bottom and a much, much more secure milking stool. So that's what we've got done for you today. That's pretty much all we're going to do. We have a really simple project here. If you want to build it, you can always model one up for yourself. Make it anything you like. You can make the legs way more tapered, less, or you can make them round. And there's one other thing that I really would like to show you today, and that is if you have a lathe, you can make round legs. And how would you actually go about doing that? Well, rather than make a whole new project, and I was thinking about this, showing one with square legs and one with round legs, but I think we're actually just going to modify the project we already have and do all this in one very, very basic idea. So if we go in here to our sketch, and instead of having square pieces, we're going to have round pieces. Now, there are going to be a few errors come up, and I know that they're going to show up, but we're going to fix those. We're going to click on this round tool here, circle, and where you see this square, we're going to draw a round object right to the midpoint of that square. And we're going to do the same thing on the other one. So we have a circle inscribed in the square. You could just have a regular circle if you were going to model this from scratch, but this will let you see the difference really easily within our same object. Now, we made 2 other sketches. If we open up the third sketch and go up here, we're going to go up here and hit P for project, turn on the second sketch, and project our circle. And hit Finish Sketch. Now, if we go to edit the second one of our leg sketches, the sketch number 4, we will go in here, hit P for project, and project our circle again. And that's it. Finish sketch. Now we just have to do one more thing. We'll edit our loft, we'll zoom in, and we'll get rid of the outside and only have the circle. In the bottom, we'll do the same thing. We'll just have the circle. And hit OK. And just like that, if we turn off our sketch, we have a tapered round leg milking stool, and it took us all of about 3 minutes to change from square legs to round tapered legs. And the more you sit on that, just like the square legs, the more it's going to drive those right up into the top of the stool. So this is a stool that you could make in almost no time. Either way, if you've got round legs, you could turn them on a lathe. You could use your plane and some sandpaper to knock those back. You could even do it with a hatchet on a carving block. I'm sure there's a video from Rex Kruger where he does just that to make a stool that looks very much like this, which I would highly recommend you go and check out if you haven't seen it. Though, if you're watching this, you probably know all about Rex and his videos, especially the simple green woodworking style videos where he uses the hatchet. Okay, so that is all we're going to do right here for this video live today. If you've liked it, please click the like button. If you haven't, you can always click the dislike button. But if you do that, if you wouldn't mind, please leave a comment and tell us what you didn't like about this video so that we can do better for you next time. If you think you have any friends who are interested in design or woodwork, please feel free to share. And if you want to come back and join us for our other lives, you can subscribe and ring that bell so that you will know when we're going live, and you can always come back and watch the recorded live streams if that's interesting to you as well. So we're done for the moment. If you have any questions, stick them in the comments or contact us directly. You can always show up at one of the other lives and put it in the chat so I can answer those questions for you. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day modeling and building in your shop.